The biggest event to hit the art world in 20 years occurred in Denver in 2011 when the Clyfford Still Museum opened. According to Denver artist Bob Coates, there are probably only about 5,000 people in the world who really care about the famous abstract expressionist, and Coates is definitely one of them. Working in his studio, which happens to be in a former church located directly across the street from the Still Museum, Coates has copied many of Still's paintings. Bob, what possessed you to copy Clyfford Still's paintings?
I said I wanted to be like Still. One of the things I love to do is I call it copying. A friend of mine says it's not copying, it's an homage, or it's an exercise. So I wanted to do an exercise in painting like Still, particularly in the period that I was most interested in, which was the period in the 50s when he was also in his 50s, which I am. So I said, well, I can only do it for a certain amount of time, and I'm going to do a 100-day exercise of painting like Still. And it was that jagged, masculine, strokey, vertical stroke that he was famous for. And I just wanted to paint like that, so I did. And I started in July, and I worked July, August, September, and part of October for 100 days painting like Still.
How many paintings did you end up reproducing?
I directly copied this. This was the first one, and I just said, okay, here's the painting. It was from the Albright Knox Gallery catalog, I think, and I just said, okay, boom, just do it. This was the first one I did. And I had this roll of canvas wallpaper, and it was this great, it's like 4.5 feet wide, and I would cut off about 10 feet at a time, and I'd paint it. And I did that over and over again. And I said, this is interesting, but I'm about done with this project. Maybe I have one more roll of this canvas wallpaper. I'm going to just paint it until it is completely done. So I started painting it, and I had no heat, no water in the studio, and so I would paint the small boards at the same time. And just use one color at a time. And I just did one color at a time. I did about 10 feet at a time. And I didn't know how long it was. This room is about 40 feet. So it's a vertical painting, and it's over 100 feet. I'm not exactly sure. I've never seen it in its entirety. But this is the bottom of it, and it goes, and it runs 10 stories high, basically. And it became the final piece, and at that point I had my 100-day project, finished this, and I used Home Depot mist tints is my paint of choice, and this roll of material I bought at a salvage store, I bought like 3 rolls of it for like 20 bucks. And so it was just that was kind of my style of just this stuff, just paint and paint and paint.
Once you finished your Clyfford Still project, did the people from the Clyfford Still Museum rush over here to see what you'd done?
I begged, cajoled, and otherwise enticed them to come over across the street, literally, to see my Still homage, and was really unsuccessful. I just had to call the Denver Post writer, Ray Rinaldi, and he had written several articles about the Still. And I called him and I said, I enjoyed your articles about the Still, and I really think you should see this homage that I've done. And he said, okay. And he said, let's set an appointment. He came. He enjoyed it. He loved it. He spent about an hour here looking at it. We're talking about it. And I said, you know and I know, Ray, that you're nobody until somebody says you're somebody. And that's just the way it is. But, it was great for you to come by. And so I didn't expect that he would write about it, but he did. I figured maybe a paragraph or two at some point in time. And he ended up writing this, I don't even know what they call it, 20-inch column type of thing, all the things that you'd want to hear. Basically, I had sent the link to it by email to some of these people. I was able to then conjure up some interest from these select group and included the museum. They contacted me and said, we wanted to bring some of our staff over and see your show. And they spent about an hour here again, and they were just I was fascinated that they would be fascinated by my little project. Take the time out, come across the street and say, wow, this is interesting, this is curious, I'm interested in this. And that was a fairly significant moment, for me, in terms of what I wanted to have happen with the Still homage. And as a conceptualist, you normally don't do things, but when you do them, they're really manifestations of those conceptions. And this, to my mind, was a relatively good manifestation of that.